right, welcome back, everybody. Wanted to give you some big picture takeaway stuff about Cobblestone Trail itself. Before we get into the technical breakdown, I think something to understand big picture about this is that the the trail obviously dictates the techniques, right? And the line that you choose on the trail dictates the techniques even more specifically. So this trail being not as technical as North Burma or Spring Creek, which are the two trails that I posted previously, means that you're not going to get sort of as consistent, as sort of relentless need for very high level technique. What it does mean, though, is that you're going to get going a lot faster, right? You're going to have a lot more momentum in play because of the fact that you're going to be able to open up your stride, okay? Because you've got these gentle slopes with this clean footing, okay? Even some bank turns in there. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity to open up and really get moving and accelerate, right, down the gradual downhill. What makes that deceptive and dangerous is that you can still get a rock or two that pop up that you're going to have to really pay attention to. And so this transition, right, not only between the gradual slope with good footing to the steeper slope with technical footing, but also throwing turns in there, right? Like some cases, the technical stuff happens on a turn, right, where you had a more straight, less technical portion beforehand, and so you're dealing with a lot of different forces. You're dealing with the need to turn. You're dealing with the increase in the change in slope. You're dealing with the technique, the rocks and the roots and everything that's necessary to handle that kind of trail. So there's a lot going on here, even though it might not look as fun or as exciting as the other trails. But believe me, it's still a really difficult and challenging thing to do well. So when we think about the specific techniques, right? There's a lot going on here, and I'm kind of combining stuff from the previous videos that I've shown you. But we still have our drops, right? That should stand out to you. That should be really easy to pick up by now. You're just letting gravity take you down to kind of the next segment of trail, right? It's just kind of, again, being like water and just flowing over the trail and not trying to force anything and just accepting that you're going to drop a foot, 2 feet, right? The skip steps, those are the kinds of things that can usually happen after drops where it's ba-boom, right? Ba-boom, right after you fall, okay? Well, you don't fall, but after you drop down from a height, you want to have one foot and then the other come down really quickly afterwards to absorb the shock and keep you going forward. Stutter stepping, this is like ubiquitous. This is probably the most common thing that I'm doing in this video. Again, just rapid pitter-pattering of feet as I move down. The knee flare that's associated with that is really important, right? Because what that's doing is dissipating the return energy that I experience, the force that the earth sends through my legs, right? That's dissipating it out off to the sides, right? Redirecting it laterally instead of forward, which is important for controlling my speed, okay? And controlling your speed, again, is really critical to not totally eating shit, right? And that's, again, part of the main function overall of stutter stepping is to help control your speed and your balance when the rocks get really tricky. A couple other pieces that come up here, posting shows up a couple times, right? Where I need to redirect or where I see that I need to check or change my line, all right? And again, this is largely for lateral movement, okay? So this is putting a foot out, firmly using that foot, putting a lot of force into that foot to ensure that I don't continue to go the direction that foot is being put in, right? Put a hard foot out to the right. I post it. That means I'm going to go left. Okay, that contrasts with tapping, which is a really light touch, which is really intended to just get the other foot forward. Okay, I'm not posting. I'm not trying to put myself in the opposite direction. I kind of actually want to keep going in a certain direction. That's what tapping is for. You saw some rock hopping. Okay, that was actually really prevalent. And then, of course, foot threading, which is a different thing altogether. Foot threading happens when you have a couple obstacles in front of you, right? And there's a gap in between them. Or you have one obstacle and you want to kind of just move your foot around that one obstacle or between those two obstacles that you're being presented with. The reason that you do this is because you don't want to change your line, right? And you don't want to bring your foot over the top, okay? It can be Dangerous, right? Because it's a good way to clip a toe. It's a good way to get something caught, right? But if you know what you're doing and you've got good body sense, you can do this kind of threading. And I showed you that initially on the video going down North Burma. So I'll point that out in this technical breakdown when it happens so that you can see it. There are a couple instances. There's one in particular that I wanted to point out towards the end of the video that I'll do. So with that said, let's jump into it, all right? Let's watch the video. I'll slow some parts of it down, narrate over the top, and you can really see some of what's taking place here. Okay, so it starts off on a relatively flat portion. You can see it start to pick up here. This first minute or so is really just getting into the groove. You can see me picking an outside line here. And there's not a lot technical going on, but there is a little bit of slaloming happening, okay? You know, if this was a race or something like that, the slaloming wouldn't be happening. I'd be headed straight down this sucker, and I'd be I'd be taking an inside line as much as I could, right, to minimize the distance that I cover. And I would not be, there was a bug, I would not be running over the top of these obstacles the way that I am in some of these instances, like with the stumps and so forth, right? I'd be steering clear of that because the last thing I want to do is eat it in the middle of a race. So the first sort of technical portion is coming up here, clearing some of these rocks and stumps, right? And then right here is a nice, whoop, you can see the dirt. It's flaring out to the side. You can see the stutter stepping, the drop, right? One of the things you'll notice is another bit of drop right there is that I sometimes sort of, my hips twist to the side, and it's almost like my left foot or my right foot crosses in front of the other foot, right? When it happens again, I'll point it out. It happened on the Spring Creek Trail quite a bit too. And again, stutter stepping to a drop to a skip step, okay? And then opening up the stride a little bit, right, to exit that technical portion. This portion here is about foot placement. That wasn't very technical, but there were potential obstacles, right? You saw plenty of them. Picking a line to avoid this like creek, this erosion corridor through this trail starts to get a little more technical. Here are the humans, okay? I'm passing the humans. And now it's going to slow down again, and we're going to see things. There's a drop, skip step there, okay? Adjust the shorts, and a drop, right? And then here we go again. This is going to be a little bit of a rock hop, and then another drop and a skip step right there. Cleared that obstacle there, right? Good knee drive, bring the foot high over it. There's a tap, okay? And again, more good foot placement to clear that technical portion with short strides, okay? Little bit of a post there, not really. So the rest of this portion, you'll see that's relatively straightforward until I take this jump, okay? And that was just a lot of fun. There, again, no need for that whatsoever, but it was entertaining to me. The rest of this is easy riding, okay? Super smooth, down to where you would go to Frog Pond, okay? Which is a great little spot, especially in spring when the frogs are hatching. So this part is flat as well, and there's actually even a little bit of an uphill here. You take a right turn, and you get into a portion of the trail that's going to be like really, again, like lots of turning, slaloming, okay? And that is, it's interesting because there's a lot of like gravitational force, right? There's some G-forces involved in making these turns, and it interrupts your stride a little bit, right? It kind of slows you down. You can't get going as quickly. You do have to shorten your stride. So this technical portion, again, a lot of this is just foot placement. Like, I'm not interrupting my stride very much here. I'm slowing it down so you can see where I'm putting my feet, okay? But I am not interrupting my stride at all. I'm not stutter stepping through this portion. If you go back and watch it at full speed, that right there was like maybe the only part where I had to sort of stutter step, okay? The rest of this is basically just making sure I put my feet down where I want them. And then here's a stutter step and a drop, okay? One of the only more technical portions of this slowdown, this section that's slowed down. There, you can see how 1 foot crossed in front, okay? You just don't want to have the other foot that's behind get caught on that foot that crossed in front of it. So here's some more stutter stepping, okay, going from rock to rock, all right? The reason that I go from rock to rock in a lot of cases is because I would rather maybe lose my footing, like slip a little bit on that rock, than catch a toe in front of or near or next to that rock, okay? Nice big bank turn. Some roots on the trail that didn't used to be there, but now they are because of all the mountain biking and the erosion that can cause. I'm not biased at all. And we're going to slow down again here. Things are going to get a little bit technical, okay? A little bit of a kind of a hop there off of a rock. You know, again, foot placement, foot placement, foot placement. I'm not doing a lot of stutter stepping until, again, right there, a little bit of dropping. But for the most part, this is all foot placement, right? Because this is not super technical. I'm just sort of putting my feet in the right spot and then dropping and weaving in and out of the obstacles where I can, okay? As you saw, getting around that tree, okay? And there was a little bit of a foot weave there with my left foot at the end. Here's another. Those are sort of skip steps combined with drops. You could see that there was a skip, and I dropped out of the skip. So you can chain these techniques together, right? I mean, there it is. There's another big drop. Okay, almost a jump, right? Because I continued on with my regular stride. What I'm going to do here, watch this right leg. Whoop. See how it was in line with the tree, and I just swung it slightly in and then let it drift back out. So that was a nice little foot weave there, okay? Right around that obstacle, rather than turning myself and trying to avoid it completely, getting my center of gravity out of the way, I just adjusted how I was carrying my leg, all right? And this is good for maintaining momentum and speed. So here's a nice interesting portion, right? I have to do a little bit of a hop, a little bit of a drop, right? I'm going from rock to rock. I end up on the dirt again. And rather than having to make a super hard right, I do a 270, okay? That right there, pivot, and the left foot, again, you see it, it's out of sight, okay? But it skidded along the ground a little bit because it was that was the foot that was controlling, keeping me from going off the trail and kept me in line, okay? Now, there's a lot of reasons to do the 270 instead of the 90 degree. None of them are that good. They're all mostly for fun. And you can see, again, some more like kind of foot weaving and foot placement that's going on here with all these different obstacles. Trying to have some fun with it, you know. Again, if this was a race, I would not be doing anywhere near as much of this kind of technical, more dangerous stuff, okay? This section here gets a little bit technical, right? Avoiding those rocks, a little bit of foot weaving there, foot threading, come up over that rock, right, with a little bit of a hop, do a little bit of skip step at the bottom of that. The next thing that you'll see me do here is some dropping, okay? Another skip step to recover from the drop. And then I come up on these rocks, okay? Get up on top of them, drop down. I'm avoiding doing a lot of turns, right? There are a lot of turns on this trail, okay? And the thing about doing that many turns is that it can hurt your feet. It really can. You put a lot of pressure on your ankles when you're going downhill fast and having to turn. So I was glad that this one was over because my feet were starting to hurt. So again, some big picture stuff here at the end, right? Foot placement was super important, super critical. You heard me say it all the time throughout this, and it underlies all the techniques. Like if your feet aren't going in the right place, you're not going to do the techniques, you're going to eat shit, all right? Jumping, I did that a couple times. Again, it's fun, but it's just generally unnecessary. The only time it's really sort of quote-unquote necessary is if you're on a bad line, okay? If you're committed to a line that leads you into a big-ass rock. All right, that's when you're going to have to jump over that rock. Like if you're, again, in a race and someone's, you know, throwing elbows and keeping you on a line that is going to lead you towards a rock like that, maybe you're going to have to jump over that rock or onto that rock and then off of it, all right? And then you should get in front of them and elbow them and push them off the trail. Line choice determines which technique that you're going to need, right? So don't let them keep you on a crappy line, all right? Pick a line, hold your line, use your elbows, and if you have to, shove somebody and get them out of the way. If you're good at this, you'll know how to shove somebody. You'll know at what point in their stride to apply the pressure, and you can really really mess them up without having to trip them. Again, the 270 turn was basically totally unnecessary. It could be useful, right, in the sense that I didn't have to stutter step super hard. I didn't have to, change my cadence that much, okay, and it avoided having to take like a really hard right-hand turn. And it's sort of like if I'm going to take a hard right-hand turn and I'm going to slip, right, it's that inside foot that's gonna go out, right? I'm going to fall, and I'm going to fall to the inside, okay? With a 270 turn, like I'm going to fall pretty much almost always to the other side, okay? Whichever foot is the foot that's going to take the most force when you're planting it in order to make the turn, that's the foot that's going to go out, okay? Because that's the foot that you're counting on the most. That's the foot that's relying on the most friction to hold you in place. And if you lose friction, if the friction isn't sufficient, that's the foot that's going to go out, okay? The 270 turn, again, it is just sort of fun and exciting to do. It's just a spin move, right? From basketball or football or any of the other juking sports that you might have been a part of. But it's I don't know. I wouldn't do it in a race, I don't think. I think I would probably stutter step and make the hard right-hand turn, just because you're opening yourself up to less potential for things to go wrong. Okay, you'll notice there was a lot of strain on where my feet were going. I had to widen my stance quite a bit to brace myself with my left foot. Right, my left foot was really important in that turn. I planted, okay, pivoted on it. That's what got me the turn, and then I had to throw that foot out again really hard to brace the downhill momentum. Okay, so it has its pros and cons. It's not something that I would do in a race right now, probably just because I'm not as comfortable with it as I would be with my stutter stepping and a hard right. But you never know. That might be something that if you work on enough could actually benefit you in a race disproportionately to that hard right-hand turn. Just like it's counterintuitive, but in a race you want to take on a turn, a big turn where there's a lot of people that are with you, and you're in a crowd, you want to take the outside of the turn because the people on the inside of the turn are going to slow down. They're going to get bunched up. There's going to be more people trying to take the inside line, and so they're actually going to get caught, right? They're going to sometimes come to a crawl or a stop. I've seen it in big races where people are just like standing there walking on the inside because it's a traffic jam. But on the outside, people are whizzing by and they're making up 10, 15 positions on just one turn. All right, so that's my sage wisdom. That's my advice. That's my breakdown of this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Next up, I'm going to do rough go. Rough go is on my agenda. I'm coming for you. All right, everybody, have a good one. And stay sane, stay safe, and fuck COVID.